Matthew's Gospel sounds like it's been written by somebody who likes a map. In these first few chapters, we're taken on a whistle-stop tour, hearing about people from many parts of the Eastern Mediterranean. It's like an introduction from the kind of person who, when he's got a gathered crowd, likes to call out where everybody is from and get everyone to identify themselves. The first place that's mentioned is Bethlehem. That would be you, Joseph, isn't it? I know you've been there in Bethlehem. And then there were those visitors from well, it's not surprising, it's called the Far East. It's so far away. Your journey, I hear it was tough. It's really good to have you here. And those from Jerusalem, well, you're here as well. We welcome you. We heard you coming. You made a bit of a noise. You shouldn't always be the centre of attention, you know. And there's some of you here from Egypt as well. You sheltered the family when they were refugees. Thanks so much. And Nazareth, where the young family has settled down, a quiet, God-fearing place. Last but not least, in Matthew's introduction, there's this land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali. Not the most desirable part of Galilee, but hi, you're very welcome. It's so good to see you. Wonderful that we're all called together, whether in person or through our representatives, to worship this Christ, the Messiah, for all of us. I think Matthew would have hoped that everybody would get on with each other. He might have said to this imaginary gathering, now, I know there's been a bit of disagreement, and some of you here, looking at you, Jerusalem, are going to wonder why the folk from Galilee are here. Can we even be sure who they are? Such a mixture of nationalities live there. I know you say, remember, memories are long, that their ancestors were not so scrupulous about chasing out the Canaanites in the great days of conquest. And yes, we've all heard that story about how King Solomon gave 10 cities in the region to King Hiram in part exchange for the materials that built the glorious temple in Jerusalem. And that King Hiram was so disgusted with the condition of the cities that he refused payment and sent them back. If a heathen king doesn't want them, why should we? Let's keep the company pure, some people say, only righteous Jews allowed. Well, Matthew might go on to explain, I've had an epiphany. The light has dawned. The penny dropped. I used to think just the same. The land for God's people, the temple for the righteous, and the Messiah for the chosen nation. Simple. Except that it's as though the scales have fallen from my eyes. Why didn't I see it before? The point of being a chosen nation is to point the way for others. The prophets are full of it. The Messiah will be for all people, Jews and Gentiles. I've looked at the writings of the prophets, and I've looked at Jesus' family tree. There's some very dodgy characters there, I can tell you, especially the women and the foreigners. This child's birth seems to change everything, to turn everything upside down. Joseph, sorry to put you on the spot again, but you remember how you told me how you changed your mind, and though you've always been known as a good law-abiding Jew, there you are, you decided to accept Mary even though she'd violated every standard you held dear. And I hear that about those stargazers from the east coming and giving gifts to the baby. Stargazers, astrologers. Moses' law says they should have been stoned. And I know that John the Baptist came from one of the best families in the country, highly respected, but talk about social mobility. He's really hit rock bottom, hasn't he? And now there's these stories of Jesus being baptised and starting preaching up in the rather rubbish part of Galilee. The first thing he does is says that light has come to that part of the country. And he picks his first followers from there as well. So that's what's clicked for me, Matthew might say. God's Messiah is for everyone, perhaps especially for those places that we thought were living in darkness. I hope I'll be able to get that message through in the gospel that I'm going to write, so that in the future it'll clear for everyone. The invitation to be loved is all-embracing, worldwide. And if Jesus' followers have an occasional disagreement in the future, God forbid, they'll be able to see that right from the early days, God wanted to include all in his love and light. If some of you are thinking, well, if we share salvation with others, perhaps we'll receive less of God's love, favour and mercy, then this is what I would say. God has enough to go round. Think of it like this. When you light a candle, there's a good, strong flame. And then, if you light another candle from it, look, the first candle doesn't go out. You've just got 2 candles. More light. Light from light. 2 flames, more light. In the same way, God's Spirit enlightens all people. A true epiphany. We see that when God gives to one person, it doesn't mean that anybody else has any less. Thank you. Thank you, Matthew, for telling us how you changed your mind. Your own epiphany as you realise that God's light and love is for all. And help us to welcome all who seek that light, and at this time to pay particular attention to our relationships with all Christian believers.